Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the December 5th Town Council meeting. If you kindly rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Announcements, the only announcements that I have are upcoming town council meetings. Thursday, December 19th at 7 p.m., we have a budget, regular meeting here. Wednesday, January 8th, a budget meeting. Thursday, January 9th, a regular meeting, and Wednesday, January 15th is another budget meeting. The budget meetings are at 6:30 p.m., the others are, regular council meetings are at 7. Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In addition, you have a special meeting on the 7th of December. For all those that do not know, Councilor Koenig has tendered his resignation as of December 31st. The town council is looking for individuals who are willing to serve until the April of 2025 elections. Your letters of interest and a quick resume would be needed to come into the town manager's office by December 20th, Friday, December 20th, by 4:30 p.m. Anybody who's interested in serving in that capacity.
And now we can skip agenda 1 under old business.
No, we can talk about it some more. I just want to make the announcement. The
No,
more,
very good.
more we get out there, the better.
I appreciate it, Paul.
A little reminder of our big event happening on Saturday, December 7th. From 9 to 2 at 421 DW Highway. Stop by and visit some jolly Merrimack police officers and bring a toy to stuff their cruiser. This is a special event that we are proud to be part of with the Toys for Tots. Thank you to the Marine Corps for as well. As a reminder, we are still collecting new unwrapped gifts in the lobby of the police station until December 10th. Thank you in advance. The Parks and Rec Department would like to invite you to join them on Sunday, December 8th, kicking off the holiday season in Merrimack at the 31st Annual Holiday Parade and Tree Lighting event. The holiday parade will kick off at 3 p.m. from the Commons Shopping Plaza located at 515 Daniel Webster Highway and will end at Town Hall parking lot located at 6 Babuzik Lake Road. The theme this year is a Charlie Brown Christmas. The tree lighting ceremony will take place immediately after the parade arrives at Town Hall. This will be approximately 3:45 p.m. and will feature performances of the Merrimack High School Marching Band, Broadway Bound, and a musical performance by Miss Liberty, Veronica, I'm going to butcher your last name, Scully. For complete details, visit Parks and Recreation Department at parks.nrec.org. That's www.merrimackparksandrec.org. Property tax bills are due Thursday, December 19th. If you have not received your bill yet, please reach out to the Town Clerk Tax Collector's Office at 603-424-3651 or visit the town website at merrimacknh.gov and click on the property taxes under the Merrimack Resources to look up and pay your property taxes online. Lastly, our annual food drive is taking place from now until December 31st. Non-expired canned food and non-perishable items are accepted at several locations throughout town, including the Highway Maintenance at 76 Turkey Hill Road, Central Fire at 432 Daniel Webster Highway, the Police Department at 31 Babuzik Lake Road, the Library at 470 Daniel Webster Highway, Public Works Administration in the lower level of Town Hall upper level, both at 6 Babuzik Lake Road, and the Transfer Station Recycling Building at 1 Farron Road. This is to help our neighbors. All food collected will go to 2 local pantries, the St. John Newman and St. James United Methodist Church. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Comments from the press and public? If you'd like to address the council, you can come to the mic over here. And see no one. We have no recognitions, resignations, or retirements, and no appointments this evening. Tonight we do have 2 public hearings, though. First public hearing is to authorize the acceptance and expenditure of a $100,000 loan for the wastewater treatment plant with $55,000 in principal forgiveness made available through the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services Clean Water State Revolving Fund to conduct an engineering study for the Pennachuck Square pump station pursuant to RSA 31:95B and Charter Article 8, Section 15. We have the Leos here this evening. Welcome.
Good evening, Council. How are you tonight?
Very well.
Good. So earlier this year, I put together a competitive loan application to the state of New Hampshire. And out of 69 applicants, we were ranked 12th. They chose to award us $100,000 to conduct an engineering study of the Pennachuck Square Pump Station, which is pretty critical to the Natticook neighborhoods over near Pennachuck Square. Part of that process is $55,000 of that is principal forgiveness. The rest of the money will have to come from the CRF, and we are asking the town council to accept the loan for $100,000 and to expend the money for the $100,000 for conducting that engineering study for the pump station. We'd like the town council also grant the town manager authority to sign any and all documents for the loan. We also like to ask the town council to put this loan request on the April 2025 warrant articles for town approval.
So the town, we're going to be taking $45,000 from the capital reserve fund.
Yes, to make up the difference in the $100,000.
Correct.
So this is really giving permission for Paul to sign for it and also to accept and expend, but we have to go through the town warrant in April
Right.
to have the town citizens approve.
Right.
Is
What
that
I
right?
would say, you're giving me authority to sign off and apply for the grant or the loan. And I'd wait till after the ballot vote in April to do the accepting and expending
Okay.
at that time, because we were not, technically, we're not able to accept and expend the money right now, because the people have not voted to say yes. This is similar to the Pine Knoll Shores projects that we have done with them, is that you have to go in front and get the approval because it's a loan forgiveness. It's not a grant.
So that, right now, you're just asking for approval for you to sign
Correct.
for the $100,000.
For the $100,000, and just know that the town council, that this will be a warrant, a special warrant article that will be put on the agenda. Not the
In the
agenda,
future,
the warrant,
before the warrant.
before the warrant.
But it'll have to come back here again. Oh, no.
It will come
So the warrant
back-
will have accept and expend.
The warrant, basically, the warrant will say
Okay.
for the townspeople to authorize the town $100,000 bond with a $55,000 forgiveness. The $45,000 is basically how you're gonna pay back that bond. And now it's gonna be through
And
capital
that'll be
reserve
afterwards.
funds and
Okay.
afterwards.
It's going to be interesting to write that up.
Yeah, does this get paid back over time or instantly?
Probably what will happen is like Pine Knoll Shores, it'll probably be, we can do a one lump sum and pay them back, or we can do it over a 5-year bond repayment, but we'll probably do it 1 year. The paperwork that we received for Pine Knoll Shores was over a 5-year payback, but we can just say, nope, here it is, have fun. We're giving back all your money right now because we took it out of capital reserve funds. Thank you very much.
Okay, so what is the town actually voting on? Any cost factors or? are they
Yes, the
just
town will
to
be
approve?
voting on to approve the $100,000 with $55,000 principal forgiveness.
Yeah, but that's not gonna cost them anything, right?
No, because it's wastewater treatment, so it's
And the
user
$45,000
fees.
we could take out of the capital reserve fund
Correct.
anyway.
Anyways,
So
at the
that doesn't
back end.
cost them anything.
No.
So you're asking them to approve this, but there's no dollar cost to
Right,
the
and,
town.
and honestly, between you and I, this has been talked about a lot with these. The way they want us to do this is go out and ask for bond repayments. It's $100,000, it's $45,000. It's not, it's a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money because we save up for things of that sort.
Right.
So we could do it and just have it approved as a grant, but because of the way the state law is written, it has to go out as a bond from this.
And that's exactly what Pine Knolls was.
Right, it's a
Same-
bond,
Same thing there, which
Right.
was the first time I ever encountered that.
right, because of the way we're using CWSRF funds, loan. It's coming from the CWSRF loan fund, which is different than the next public hearing.
Yes.
So how do you want the motion stated?
The motion would be to allow the town manager to authorize the town manager to sign all necessary loan documents for the Pennachuck wastewater pump station CWSRF loan.
Somebody say,
So moved.
I'll make a second.
Motion by Tom, seconded by Mackenzie. Any further discussion? Call the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
aye.
Opposed or abstained? 600, and I realize I didn't let everybody know, Anthony's been excused for this evening. He won't be.
This is actually a public hearing,
Yes, oh, shoot, yes.
so we ought to open up the public
Well,
hearing.
I take back that vote. So what do I have to do there, Paul?
Do the public hearing.
Just open up the public hearing.
If you would like to address this, please feel free to step to the mic over here. The public hearing was open at 6:15, and I'll close it at 6:16. Thank you, Tom.
Sorry.
We- we're all-
7,
flipped
oh
the page
gosh,
and
this
noticed.
clock.
We all, yeah.
All right, now we're going to get a fresh start here. Are we all set for the motion? Or
Yeah, you want me to repeat it?
No.
No, I mean,
it's
the
already
motion is
been-
still there,
we're just-
right? We
It's
just,
there,
we never voted on it yet, have we?
yes, we did.
We did.
Oh, we did?
We did, yes. So do I have to do any formality to take that back, or what should I do?
Just why don't we redo the vote?
Just affirm the vote.
Affirm the vote that was taken prior to the public hearing being open.
Wait a second.
Hold on,
Is that-
here's the motion. To affirm the vote that was taken prior to the public hearing being opened of, to allowing the town, authorizing the town manager to sign all necessary loan documents in accordance for the Pennachuck wastewater pump station CWSRF loan.
So moved.
Moved and second.
Second.
I'll make a second.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstained? 600. And I apologize. I just was thinking Andy, and Andy's
I
not
know.
here this evening. He's been excused. There we go.
We're gonna blame him.
Okay, I appreciate that. All Andy's
Since
fault.
he's not here, we're gonna blame him.
Sure, hey. That's what
All
happens when
right.
you're not present.
Is this one an acceptance and expenditure?
This one's different.
Okay, because it did have it listed as an acceptance and expenditure on that first public.
Yeah, I know, but this
Yeah.
one's different.
Okay, so our
See, so it
second,
wasn't our fault. We read the literature.
so our second public hearing is to authorize the acceptance and expenditure of a $60,000 Clean Water State Revolving Fund Asset Management Program grant made available through the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services to be used toward inventorying, maintaining, funding, and managing our stormwater and wastewater assets pursuant to RSA 3195B and Charter Article 8, Section 15. Leos.
Thank you, Chairman. This is similar, well, we went through this back in May, but this is similar to the Clean Water SRF loan. However, this is a grant. So we'll be getting this $60,000 for asset management for both wastewater and stormwater. It's actually, oh, sorry. That's some of the pretty pictures of the equipment we're going to be using for the asset management grant. And this is the page with the explanation of the grant. It's two parts, $30,000 each, one for stormwater asset management and one for wastewater asset management. So what DPW's requesting is that the town council accept and expend both grant money, and then also we request the town council grant the town manager authority to sign any and all documents. I have it in here for the loan, and I apologize, it's for the grant, for both grants.
Public hearing.
Yes, thank you. I was going to see if anybody had any questions first. If, seeing none, I'll open the public hearing at 7:18, if anybody would like to address
We
this.
can't say 6:18.
And seeing no one coming forward at 7:19, I'll be closing the public hearing. And what's the pleasure of the council?
Nancy looks like she's. Talk about putting her on the spot.
We just got my monitor to work, so, I would like to make a motion that, make a motion to accept the Clean Water State Revolving Fund for stormwater and wastewater assets, expend $60,000 Clean Water State Revolving Fund Asset Management Program grant made available through the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services to be used toward inventorying, maintaining, funding, and managing our stormwater and wastewater assets pursuant to RSA 31:95-B and Charter Article 8-15. And for the town manager to sign all necessary documents.
Second.
Motion by Nancy Murphy, seconded by Jennifer. Any further discussion on the motion? See none, call the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? 600. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Updates from our legislative delegation. Nancy, do you have anything?
Just briefly, we were sworn in yesterday, and we meet again on January 8th to get things moving. So that's it in
Well
terms
done.
of the legislation's in process, and we all have our bills. And the Senate doesn't, their LSR period still will be open for quite a while. So that's it.
Thank you.
Didn't get any.
Did anything, okay. Town manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of very great honors were bestowed upon the town of Merrimack. Detective Haley Ash has been selected as the National Child Advocacy Center 2024 Everyday Hero. This award is presented to one person from the multidiscipline team of each of the 11 CACs in the state. They honor 11 heroes at the special award night called Hands of Hope in May at Church Landing in Meredith. The CAC is responsible for interviewing children who may have been victims of abuse. The staff at the CAC came to the PD to surprise Haley with this award. They all stated that it was a no-brainer that Haley was chosen. We are beyond proud of her and honored to have her represent the department and the town of Merrimack. It's a great honor to have somebody, a detective, honored that way. And then if I need to read this. As many of you may or may not know, our current welfare minister, Pat Murphy, is retiring at the end of January. January 31st is her last day. Today we have got an email, and I'll just read the email. In case I didn't get another chance to say it before your well-deserved retirement, I wanted to say New Hampshire Legal Assistance and myself are deeply grateful for all the years of compassionate service you have provided to the low-income families of Merrimack and the rest of the state. Your upcoming retirement came up at one of the NHLA's weekly housing advocate meetings recently, and a colleague said, to universal agreement, that if every town in the state had a Pat Murphy handling local welfare for the town, our clients statewide would be much better off, and we probably wouldn't have much need to have local welfare law project at NHLA. Whoever is taking over after you leave, Pat, has some mighty big shoes to fill. Once again, I hope you enjoy your retirement. Stephen Tower, Esquire, Managing Attorney of the Manchester Law Office of New Hampshire Legal Assistance.
Wonderful.
And for them to come out and say that about Pat Murphy and one of our administrators of our welfare, that is another incredible honor. So we got two incredible honors bestowed upon the town in the last couple of days. And finally, the wastewater facility would like to inform the Merrimack residents that compost sales and giveaways are now over for the year. Compost sales and giveaways will begin next spring. And lastly, tomorrow at 8:30, wastewater will be hosting a meeting at their facility, showing off the $32 million improvements that was done, the construction project, and all town councilors are welcome to come and join the tours. But that is also another great honor for us, that people are coming down to see all the great work that was put into the improvements at our wastewater facility. So if any town council is around tomorrow, 8:30 in the morning at 36 Mass Road, they'll be more than willing to come and take a tour and see the new plant. Will include the screenings building, the chlorination building, and the main pump stations.
Great. Thank you, Paul. Okay. All right. We have nothing on the consent agenda. Under old business, item 1 is the council to discuss the timeline to fill the upcoming vacancy on the town council that has been caused by our
By the
colleague,
traitor,
the
Nate?
traitor, Tom Koenig, leaving us. So which is, his final date is December 31st, and Paul's gone through it, but we should
I would read that whole thing.
read the release.
Yeah, please do, please do.
This is your
Go for it.
punishment, I guess. So,
We should have him read.
all right, the press release reads, "The Town of Merrimack is seeking applicants interested in serving on the Merrimack Town Council until the vote in April of 2025, in order to fill the vacancy left by the resignation of Tom Koenig effective December 31st, 2024. The Town Council is the governing board for the Town of Merrimack. It is made up of 7 members who are elected from the town at large for 3 3-year staggered terms. All members take office following certification of their election and after being duly sworn in, and hold office until successors are duly elected and certified. The town charter states that the council shall have all powers conferred upon and discharged all the duties imposed upon town councils, town meetings, boards of mayor and aldermen, and selectmen of towns by law except the adoption of a town budget. The town council shall set policies for town government and shall bear full responsibility for the implementation of said policies through the hiring and supervision of the town manager. All officers and members of all boards, commissions, and committees, and vacancies thereto are appointed by the council from among town residents unless otherwise stated in the town charter. As required by the town charter, the council shall establish rules for its proceedings, including but not limited to recording of votes, posting and amending of agendas, and such parliamentary and other meeting procedures not inconsistent with the charter. The council currently meets on the second and fourth Thursday evenings of every month, and occasionally more often when necessary. Qualifications include a registered voter, must have been a resident domiciled in Merrimack for at least 1 year, knowledge of the community, ability to work well with others, you get a kick out of that, I guess, and willingness to devote time and effort to the duties of counselor. More information can be found in the Article 4 of the Merrimack Town Charter. If you're interested in applying for the position, please submit a letter of interest and resume by 4:30 p.m. on Friday, December 20th, which includes your qualifications, personal characteristics, length of residency, previous positions held, and experience related to this position. Send this to the Town of Merrimack, attention, Town Council vacancy, 6 Babusk Lake Road, Merrimack, New Hampshire, 03054, and the interviews will be held on Thursday, January 2nd, and Tuesday, January 7th, and after that second meeting, the council will have a special meeting to pick from those applicants. And so for more information on the town council, please contact the town manager's office at 603-424-2331. And there we go. And we're, of course, very disappointed that Tom is leaving us. And
How long do we have to make him feel guilty?
2 more, one more meeting, yes. So,
We can always hold a special meeting on the 25th of December.
Yeah, if you want to hurt yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Let's not
So-
get carried away.
all right. So unless anybody has any comments they'd like to make?
The council, the question is, we put the 2nd and the 7th because of timeline constraints. Is the council okay with those 2 dates?
Gonna have to be. Now, depending upon the number of applicants, will it be determined 1 or 2 nights, right?
Correct, correct. If we get more than 3 applicants, we'll do it over 2 nights. If we get 3 or less, we'll probably just do it over 1 night,
One
schedule them for 45 minutes, starting at 6 o'clock. So it would be 6 to 6:45, 7 to 7:45, 8 to 8:45, and then hold the meeting afterwards
On the 7th.
on the 7th.
Oh, if there's only 1 night, okay.
Yeah, if there's only 1
That's what I
night.
was gonna ask. Terrific.
So
Could it be, if we only have 3 applicants and then we do them all on that first, the second or whatever it was,
yes,
can we have it?
we'd have to
noted?
post it. We'd
Yeah.
have to post it beforehand. That's what we're doing.
Right, can we post it if it's brought to a conclusion, it would happen that night? Or it doesn't matter to me, I'll come back, I don't.
I know that we start budget the 8th, and then we have, it's 3 meetings, the 7th, 8th, and 9th. We'll be here 3 days in a row on that. So if you want to do
Oh,
it
so
on-
you're
just
feeling that
on,
already.
on Tuesday, if you just want to do it on that January 2nd, which is Thursday, if you just want to do them all on January 2nd, if there's only 3, you can do that
Yeah,
too.
post the meeting.
Post the meeting.
So it's noted that if
Right,
we
we'll
do
know
bring
more
it-
on the 20th.
Yeah, perfect.
We'll know more on the 20th. So this way, we can post by the 27th.
Yes, okay. Everybody good? Except for Tom?
I'm good.
I know you're good. All right. All right, if we're all set, we'll move on to new business. Item number 1 under new business, resident Jean Jelinas is to present the council with the construction noise disturbance issue and to discuss possible ways to prevent future disturbances. Welcome, Mr. Jelinas.
Appreciate you guys having me. Push it.
Did the light up?
Is that, yeah, the
Yeah,
light?
I can hear you.
You
Yep.
can hear me?
Perfect.
Okay. All right. Well, I live on Page Drive, over by Reed's Ferry School. Lamontagne has had, I mean, you're all aware, a large development there for the past over 2.5 years. You know, I understand that Merrimack is growing, that there is limited control over these developers doing pretty much what they want. Although, you know, that development was held for quite a long time. So it was able to be held for quite a long time. I don't know how much money Mr. Lamontagne or Christine Lamontagne spent to get to that point. My issue right now is that for the last 2.5 years, the amount of noise that we've incurred in that neighborhood and the general area has been really kind of obnoxious. We're not talking about, you know, 20 minutes of construction noise here. We're talking about having large, massive rock crushers going for 8-9 hours a day, starting at 6:45. Myself, I work at night. I'm a nurse. I come home at 7:30, 8 o'clock. I like to eat breakfast and go to bed for a few hours. I can't do that. When these guys go, there's nowhere in in my house I can go without hearing this constantly. Now, presently, the rock crushing is going on Reed's Ferry Way, which is, I don't know how many thousand yards from my house. But I can hear it directly from the house. I mean, there's just a constant bang, 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 bang. It's like Chinese water torture. It's not like a Southwest plane going over the house at 4 o'clock in the morning. You can deal with that. It's not like a guy going by the house with straight pipes. That happens, and it's like 20 seconds. This is constant. I've tried to talk to the Lamontaignes. They don't want to have anything to do with it. They don't want to talk. They don't want to say anything about it. I tried to confront one afternoon, I think back in July. I'd had it. Went up to their foreman, and he essentially, well, he exactly told me to fuck off. So I realize Merrimack doesn't have a sound ordinance, and I've been trying to get this heard in front of the town council for, I don't know, since September. I understand that without that ordinance, as far as trying to do anything about this is almost fruitless. I have no civil avenue. I can't say this town has an ordinance, and I'd like to bring civil suit against Lamontagne. I can't do that because I have no basis. Numerous towns in the state have sound ordinances. They vary widely. Some are very, very broad, essentially saying we have control over sound. If it's annoying our residents, we can do something about it. You have places like Manchester and Concord that have decibel levels. I have sound files here. I don't know how well they're going to play, but I think you guys get the idea of the type of sound that I'm talking about.
I've heard it, I'm about a mile as the crow flies.
Yeah, I
and
know,
I've
you're
heard
out
it.
in
I've heard
Kittredge,
it,
and,
yeah.
yeah, okay, so, I mean, I could easily say, they're almost done. It's been 2.5 years, I don't know how many more months they're gonna, there's only so much land. And say, it's gonna be over, and it's out of my neighborhood now, and I don't care. I could say that. They're just gonna go to another neighborhood in Merrimack, or another developer's gonna go to another neighborhood in Merrimack and do the same thing, and have the same type of problems. It's going to annoy the crowd. I don't know, I mean, I haven't talked to a lot of the neighbors. I mean, people are putting up fences now. People who have young children, I can't imagine they, can put them down for naps, in the middle of the afternoon. I know there are people, they work during the daytime, so maybe they don't get all of this. I mean, it happens on Saturdays as well. And I'm willing to accept the fact that it's just uniquely annoying to me, and I just have to live with that. But I don't think that's the case.
I feel badly that you've had to deal with it for a long time. The difficulty, as you've suggested earlier in your presentation, is that this is a plan that I believe was approved in the 60s. I don't know how it's allowed to go, because things change as years go on, but so they had that right apparently there. There were no, what are the list of, Tom, what are the list of things, provisions? Conditions, yeah, the conditions, site plan conditions, they now will put those into site plans, and I believe that the planning board can dictate that, and if there's gonna be demolition or blasting, we should have those, blasting is treated differently.
Well,
but-
here, yeah, with respect, I mean, I'd be happy with blasting. Blasting is regulated.
Right.
We can easily say, first of all, they have strict requirements on how they do it. They have strict requirements on notifying residents when it's going to
Right.
happen. And it is very time constrained. It doesn't go on for 8 hours.
No, you're right.
There's a
and-
blast, and then they start taking stuff away. I'd be fine with that. And I understand for Lamontagne, that's a huge cost for them, because they have to insure themselves against all the foundations they may crack
Right.
as they do that. Well, quite frankly, I mean, honestly, I don't care.
Sure.
And I understand as far as, the development back, when Louis Roy was putting these houses in 1965, that this was, this is grandfathered in. The noise is not grandfathered in. And the amount and the size of the development, I don't think is grandfathered in. Just the fact that there's going to be development. I mean, that swampland, it's been, I mean, there have been attempts to build on that property for, decades, and it was kept from happening. And I'm not saying anything about, I don't want the houses there, that's just the way it is. But I would like some respect or some ability to control the nuisance. I mean, 20 to 40 dump trucks go by the street every day, filled up. 1 3-week period, there was not only a rock crusher, but one of these devices where they take the rock and turn it into gravel.
Right.
Was going almost 24/7. And there's no regulation against that. And there's nothing to be done.
Well, I'd be surprised if they could run at 2 in the morning.
Well, yeah,
I
okay,
recognize
but-
what you're saying.
But what I'm saying is, I wake up at 6:45 and I start hearing
Yeah,
this.
no, and I
it's
understand.
going. And, I'm at the point where I just wanted to bring it to the town council's, notice to say that I have done so. I'm also of the mind to perhaps start petitioning my neighbors and start for a warrant article as far as the noise ordinance. I mean, Merrimack doesn't have one. And
We've looked into them, Mr. Jelinas, and enforcement is difficult. Like, they have decibel ratings, you would suggest, I think, in Manchester.
Well-
They're difficult to accommodate. For me personally, I think the best way to handle it is for site plan conditions to be listed and times specified and enforced. And I don't know exactly how that would happen.
Right, I think right now, the town has no means to do that. The
Well,
town has no legal authority to tell La Montagne that they must, they can't start their rock crusher start at 9 o'clock, and it can't go
They can.
for 8
I
hours.
think I disagree
No,
with you.
They can't in this case.
Not in this case, no,
Okay.
you're right, this,
In
because this has
in
already
new
been
cases,
approved.
they can.
But when a builder comes to this planning board, they can put in conditions, and quite frankly, builders, will they violate that? I'm sure some will,
Yeah.
but if you have the conditions in there, they're supposed to be required to follow those. And so they can that's how I think the best way to handle this, and I'm sorry, like I say, you've done it, and I guess you've told me that they're coming to a conclusion pretty soon.
Right.
So it doesn't help you, but as far as further developments, I think it should be an automatic, if the planning board doesn't know if they're gonna be banging rock all day long, then it should be an automatic put in there, just to make sure it doesn't happen.
And what I have a hard time understanding is back in 1965, when supposedly I'm being told that this noise is allowed to be happening because it's grandfathered in from 1965. What I can't understand is that in 1965, there was no concept of these
Right.
massive rock crushers. There was a concept of dynamite, but I mean, I can go to my neighbors across the street, the fine Brazilian family, and they were doing the same thing. Okay, they were building an addition to their house. I can go over them, talk to them,
Right.
and they're reasonable. And like, my mother's 82 years old. This is resonating through her bedroom for hours at a time. She can't sleep. And they're like, okay, this is my neighbor. But Lamontagne doesn't give a damn.
No, and I'm disappointed to hear that, quite frankly.
And what I've been being told is there's nothing that we can do about this. Nothing.
Just to let you know, just to give a perspective, I lived with that.
No,
for
I
almost a
know,
year.
on Spruce, I
So I
get
don't
that.
I don't think it has to do with 65 versus now. I think they got approval, it was either, and I had all that dynamiting, so I understand. You don't want the dynamiting, I'm telling you. I know from your perspective, I've had both. But the damage to the houses, and they don't tell you when they're gonna blast. First of all, they don't notify you. Just to clarify that. I'm trying to explain to you that I have empathy for you. I do understand what you're saying. But I don't think it's a difference from 1965 and now. They got permission now to do that.
Right.
So
somebody gave
even
them
if it
permission.
were, even if it was a new development, new to the plan, they still would have used that mechanism. Now, they might have had more authority to say, time-wise.
Right.
But they still wouldn't have been able to stop. I mean, they still would have been doing that. And unfortunately, they were starting like at 6:30 in the morning, too. Fortunately, they were responsive. Once they heard us, I think they waited till 7:30, but at least it was some time. But it literally went the whole day. And I don't think they did it on Saturdays,
Yeah,
though.
right.
So,
And-
so I'm trying to help you understand that particular part is no different now than it was back in 65. And that I do empathize with you. I know, I thoroughly understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're somewhat talking apples and oranges here. We're talking a small neighborhood in Merrimack, Reeds Ferry area that's quiet, that has $850,000 homes, that is known for being quiet and for
We
being.
used to be too.
Well, that's true too.
But we
Okay.
won't get into that. Paul?
Okay,
I want to get Paul first, Nancy.
So-
Nancy,
I reached out to Robert, and I said, okay, Robert, what can we do? What can we legally do? Robert Price,
Price,
Community
Price.
Development. And he reached out to our attorney. And the only thing we can do is change the site plan regulations to talk about hours of operations, noise, things of that sort. However, by changing the site plan regulations, those are in commercial and industrial construction sites. Residential sites usually just get the site plan approval, which is different than site plan regulations. So there's a little bit of a fine line going through with building a neighborhood versus building an outlet mall.
Yeah.
Commercial outlet mall. There are things that we could look into. One of the things I've also talked to the police department because it's just not, and believe me, if I had to listen to the banging as you did, sir, it was that 5-minute email you sent me, my staff can testify that, you're like, what the heck is that noise when I was listening to your email? And it was and if that was going on all day, I understand your frustration. The police department, because we had other noise ordinances and other noise problems, the police department uses something called disturbing the peace. And that's the RSA that they could use, is a disturbing the peace ordinance. For loud music, motorcycles that are just revving in the driveway. What normally happens with that is the police department goes over there the first time with loud music or disturbing the peace, like having a party, and they say, turn it down. If not, they come back second time and they cite them at the second time. That is what they've been using for noise ordinances. We've had neighborly disputes where one person is playing their music loud every time somebody goes outside. We had the police department go there and say, you need to stop that. If it happens again, call us, we'll go, and we'll cite the people. That happens. Construction is a little bit different. We are able to, through the site plan regulations for commercial and industrial zones, limit the use, and I think that's what we did at the outlet mall. They were only allowed, they could start their equipment at 7. They couldn't start their equipment before 7 to warm it up. And they had to be out by X time at night. They couldn't work later in the day. So those were the constraints that was put on it. They could do that with some homes. In this case, they couldn't because it was already approved and they were walking in with a lot plan, lot lines that were adjusted. You could ask next time if this is going to happen, if you're going to do rock crushing, please only do rock crushing from X to Y during the day and no Sundays. And that was the other thing, because we do have operations that other people have complained about noise that, they're sifting loom on Saturday and they start at 6:30 in the morning, and we have gone to those businesses and said, hey, it's Saturday, could you start at 8? And they've been responsive in starting at 8. But those are the issues with this stuff, it's responsiveness. What I want to say, and I know this doesn't help you now, but in the future, if you go to community development, because they handle all this stuff, they can talk to the builder and try to reason with the builder and say, hey, could you just back off a little bit and maybe not start at 6:45, but start at 9 o'clock in the morning for this
Well,
stuff?
I don't know if the individual to whom Becky sent me to speak essentially told me there's nothing that can be done. And so what I'm trying to impress upon you all is that you're talking about the town being able to say, hey, to this developer, this is the town of Merrimack saying, you're annoying the crap out of a bunch of people here in this neighborhood, and we'd like you to stop doing this at 6:45 in the morning, and keep in mind that maybe you start at 8:30, and you don't, on Saturday morning at 7 o'clock in the morning, start right up all over again, and on Sundays. What you're saying, Mr. McCauley, is that you have in the past had that authority, or at least had that weight, to go to that developer and say that. Me as an individual, when I go to Christine LaMontagne, or I go to her foreman, he tells me to fuck off.
I understand.
Okay,
And that's
and
what I'm
so
saying.
that's why I'm
have-
here.
We have a lot more weight if we've known that. We have weight that we can talk to them. We have DPW was working out there on the project that knew the foreman and stuff, and we could have asked them, is what I'm saying, is that we could have asked them, we could have community development ask them. We have done that in the past with contractors. We brought them in and say, hey, knock it off on a Saturday, start at 8. And they have confirmed, they have done that. Now, would LaMontagne do that? I don't know. I haven't had conversations with them.
Right, and that's the second point, is that this is a kindness. This is the town of Merrimack coming to the contractor and saying, as a kindness, would you stop doing this? And what it makes me feel is the town of Merrimack itself, as far as the government, has very limited control over the development that goes on in this town, which is the reason why we are experiencing a lot of the problems that we are experiencing, traffic, etc. And so something as simple as a sound ordinance, which I'm starting to think is is a reasonable place to start, at least to give the town some kind of guidance as far as what to do. I was hoping that perhaps I could get support from the town in doing that. I'm more than willing to do that on my own, and spend my time doing that, but I think it's about time that the town of Merrimack starts to stand up and say, okay, are we going to be Manchester, or are we going to continue to be Merrimack? When developers can do whatever they want as soon as they purchase a piece of property, I'm sure we've regulated the outlets. The folks who own, who are running the outlets and putting all those apartments there, I'm sure you guys had a lot to say about how that happened. They didn't just come in, or maybe not.
Well, no, through the
Maybe there
planning
is an
process they do.
impotence that occurs here.
But again, if it's a development, if somebody's coming in and they have to do a site plan review, if it's a single lot that's already been approved for a building lot, there's not anything you can do except the courtesy way.
That's the plan.
But if it's a site plan thing, they have to come before the planning board, they can be implemented there. And something like the Lamontagne project is large enough, it would have been, if it were current, it would have been having a site plan review.
Now, because it was, sorry, Vance, I know you want to speak, but because it happened and it was already
Yeah.
approved, and the lot lines were drawn.
It was already
It was
set.
already said
Yeah.
that was a buildable lot, they could build on it.
Right. Nancy?
I think the issue for me is it's a quality of life.
Exactly.
And it's great that developers can do, and we recognize fully that they have to do their work and it's gonna make noise. But at some point, we have to advocate for the citizens and the quality of their lives. And I was an arts too, and I used to work nights, and I get it. Not everybody does, and there are not a lot of us, but they deserve to sleep 4 hours a day, and beyond that, senior citizens I feel like this shouldn't be something that's entirely based around site plans or whatever. There should be a noise ordinance by which the entire town has to live by, including, and just on the books, so that it provides law enforcement. When they get a call and say, okay, whatever the rules are, you can crush stone from 8 to 4, 3 days a week, but you can't do it 6 days a week. I mean, people have to have a break. I don't know, I don't think your request is at all unreasonable. I feel for people that have lived for months during, especially large projects.
Months,
So-
we're talking years.
And, and I don't know, I feel like that's our responsibility, and if there's a way to do that, I certainly think we should be doing that, and not relying on other departments and what they put in a permit. And then it's known across the board. It's not just known to builders. It's known that
Right.
townwide, these are the rules. From this time to this time, there's no whatever. And whether, I think it would make sense to look into how other communities do that. Because I get enforcement is an issue, and it's never perfect. But I think we should at least strive for something that's better than what we have. And I know that you're not the only person I've spoken with about noise concerns for different things. But, we're a bustling community now, and there's a lot of people here, and I think it's something that it's time for us to do what we can ordinance-wise, separate from other departments, and not rely solely on what's in a plan or what isn't in a plan, and as opposed to development versus residential areas. That's a separate issue, and I feel like the residential areas are the part that aren't really being represented in those things. So I'd be happy to work with people if, on that, because I'm sorry that you're going
I'm
through
living
that.
in the first house that was built on that plan in 1965. Okay? There was nothing there. There were trees, and that was it. I grew up in the house. Okay? I grew up in that neighborhood. I've never, ever, ever had that kind of problem in that neighborhood or the surrounding area. were pretty much Merrimack altogether. I mean, there were always areas like, unfortunately, where the
I used to have acres of woods behind.
yeah,
me,
I get that.
But
I mean,
I think
and I'm not saying development shouldn't
No
occur.
problem.
I'm not saying that, I understand there are legal, limits to the town's ability to regulate that, but the town, by state law, does have the right and does have the authority to regulate these things. I went online last night and found over 30 town ordinances that relate to sound. Some are so vague that the town has the authority, more or less, based on state law. They have the authority to say, we can bring this to the town and say, this isn't okay.
Just to let you know, Nancy, what was it, 3 years ago, Tom, that we looked at that? When we looked at the ordinances, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, we did a pretty considerable search on ordinances that you're talking about. And we had a presentation and a lot of data. If you want to relook at it, I have no problem with it, because a lot of it we already have. And we got legal opinions. A lot of it, the difficulty did have with enforcement of it, that kind of thing. It's fine to look at it again. There's a lot of new members. There's no reason, but just to let you know, we put a considerable amount of time in, and hopefully we still have a lot of that data and we can probably update it. But there's no reason why we can't look at it again.
Yeah, you're talking about the Rooster Gate.
The what?
Roosters.
Yeah, when the roosters came, that's right.
Right. So someone's getting annoyed at roosters. I'm sure
You'd
Mr.
put up with
Rothaus
that
or
easily.
Nancy, I own a motorcycle, okay? I take the mufflers off that motorcycle and I
Yeah.
drive by your house constantly. You wouldn't be terribly happy,
Oh, no.
okay?
Yeah,
Not in
I'm not
Merrimack.
arguing with you. First of
No,
all,
I know that.
if
but-
anyone on this
Right,
panel here
And-
understands what you're talking about, I do.
right. I mean,
That's all I'm saying.
what I'm saying is that I think myself, and I'm pretty sure a lot of my neighbors are feeling impotent as
Yeah,
far as
I
what they
getcha.
can do with their property. And this is a matter
I
of,
getcha.
I think Nancy mentioned it properly. It's a quality of life issue.
I getcha.
People don't move to Merrimack to hear this all the time, and it's if it's temporary, okay, if it's regulated, okay. But we regulate motorcycles. We regulate other things.
Jennifer?
I just want to commend you for coming and talking to us and speaking up. I can tell you've been waiting to be heard. I also sympathize with you. We had not as bad of a situation, but we did have a development put in near my house, and that was probably 2 years of blasting. And I will say, I wouldn't wish the blasting on anybody.
Right.
But we did, we had some similar noises, but it was kept within reasonable hours. So I do sympathize with what you're going through. Is it possible to send a letter to the builder and at least try to reach out and see if,
Dawn, you drove up there today. Could you give your update, please?
It's on. We went up and we went through all 3 phases. So the first phase was over on Cathy Street. All of the empty lots have been built upon. The street has been redone. The sewer line was put in. So that was the first phase that they had done years ago. The second phase that they did was actually what we call the third phase, which was the level acres. They put in a whole subdivision that they did go to planning board because they did some lot line adjustments, and they did some road cul-de-sacs at the end instead of having them extend out into the wetlands area. So that area we drove through. We have not accepted the road at that point, but they've got all the sewer and the infrastructure. They've done the pavement base and final paving on that whole area, and I believe all of the houses on those lots have been completed, if not sold. They're still doing some work out there, but I don't believe it involves any blasting at this point, because I believe all of the foundations are in for each one of those lots that were out there that they were proposing to build upon. The last phase, which they started in this past year, or last year, was the Reed's Ferry. So there were several lots, and I don't remember whether there were 6 or 7 individual lots. They had to bring in the sewer line up Reed's Ferry in order to be able to build on these lots. These lots are fairly small. Since they were done in '65, they had different criteria. In order to build upon them today, they had to put in the sewer in because there's not enough room on these lots to be able to put the house, the septic, and a well, but there is water in there. So they did bring up the sewer line. The sewer line did hit a lot of ledge. They did have to hammer a lot all the way up through. They finished all of that work. They've now put the base, they rebuilt that road, put the base pavement on. They will put the new pavement on next spring. We want the road to settle for the winter before they go forward and do that. We went through yesterday, and I believe they have put all of the houses and the foundations, at least the foundations in, and most all of the houses were built upon. I think there was one that just had a foundation left, if I remember correctly. And the rest of them, the houses, even the roofs were still on, so they're going to be working on the interior of those houses, I would assume, for the winter time. So as far as the blasting, we were told today by one of the manager for LaMontagne that they were had completed the pounding for that area. That's what we were told today. So that's what I believe. Looking at the site, I think that he's done all the building that he can, because as you said, there are some wetlands on some of those lots and that he can't build upon. So that's the update that I have, that I've known. We have worked with him, and if I'd have known, we would have tried to work with him, but there's no guarantees. But that was the difference between this, is that those lots were already created. They were there, and they were allowed to be built upon. It's just today, the size of it is different, so they had to bring the sewer in, and that's what created a lot of that blasting in order to get there, in order to be able to develop those lots. So he put a lot in the infrastructure before he could even start building for these houses. So unfortunately, Reed's Ferry was also one of the first roads we used the injection system on for our pavement. So we've been very particular on what happens on that road. So anyway, that's
Thank
what
you,
I've
Dawn.
got. Questions or?
So, yeah, it's complete, it sounds like, which doesn't help the situation. But,
Well, and I think that's the thing, is that, I get that there's only so much property over there left. And I think Nancy has it spot on, is that the town has absolutely, first of all, had no consideration that this could be occurring. It takes me, after 2.5 years, and after a 12-hour shift, to come and talk to you guys, to make it noted that this is occurring. And I don't, again, I think we're talking about there are no tools. You have no tools. The town has no tools to keep that happening, and I don't know if that's intentional, or if that's again, by design, or it's just no one consider it. But Jennifer, you say this happened at your house. How many people did that affect? So, and even those people, that just purchased these houses, $850,000. If I heard that constantly, and I just paid $850,000 for my house, and I have a $6,000 mortgage, I'd be pretty damn pissed off. So,
we'll have, Paul will, start digging into what we have historically already, and see, how we might approach this and see what we can do.
I mean, I'm willing to wait for your guys' guidance as to how to get an ordinance taken care of. I know legally how I can get that taken care of and put that on the ballot. And I think if that got put on the ballot in April, there would be a lot of people that said, I want that.
Yeah.
And if I made that as vague as possible and had my 25 signatures to get that warrant article put on the town, the
You
town
need more than
vote,
25
I
signatures,
think you
sir.
need 500.
You need 500 to go directly, 60 to
I
come to a
probably
public
could get
hearing.
500
You,
signatures.
and if, you probably could. If,
But
Okay.
I'm just saying, it's more than the 25, so please talk to my office before, if you're gonna do that individually, because it's not a money article. Money articles are 25 signatures. 50 signatures, I believe, go to public hearing to the town council,
Yeah.
and then town council can move that forward to the warrant. But I believe 500 goes directly to the ballot. 500 or
Well,
1,200.
it goes through a public hearing process. And,
But it goes
Right.
but
directly.
it is on the
Exactly.
ballot. You,
Right.
500
Exactly.
signatures get it on the ballot.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I'd rather the town take this up and have the consideration of the fact that this kind of thing, an ordinance such as this, is actually to the benefit of the people in the town. And that there would be a majority of the people in the town, of the council representing those people, would be able to say, this is not okay in Merrimack any longer. This is not okay.
Tom?
I would just caution you, if you're gonna try and make a vague ordinance and push it through on a town meeting or something like that, you make sure that it's an enforceable ordinance. So you get some legal counsel guidance.
Yeah, I definitely would
Because-
get legal counsel.
Putting an ordinance out there that is not enforceable does
No,
nothing for anybody except make some people feel good until something happens that they don't feel good anymore. So the reason that we haven't moved forward with an ordinance has been because of the difficulty of putting together an enforceable ordinance within the town. Nancy just alluded to the fact that we've studied this multiple times in the past 20 years. And we haven't been able to come up with something reasonable that
So-
we thought we could enforce that would make sense in the town of Merrimack.
So are you saying that all these other towns who have town ordinances, some vague,
I'm-
some specific, that their ordinances are are not enforceable?
I'm not saying anything about any other town's ordinance. I'm just suggesting that if we're going to put one forward, we ought to make
Right.
sure it's enforceable.
And that's why I'm here, because I'm talking to the people that would know how to do this properly.
We have
versus-
attempted this multiple times. We've said that now several times, that we've attempted going forward with it, and we've been given guidance that said it's not what you want. We have the disturbing the peace type rules and regulations. We have different ways to approach certain things, but putting together a quote-unquote noise ordinance and having that be enforceable across the town has not been successful in the past efforts that we've made. And so I just caution you that it's not a simple thing. You can go off and do something. If it gets put on the books and voted in by the town and it's not enforceable, it's a waste of everybody's time and energy. So we just need to make sure that I would recommend, and I'm resigning at the end of this month, so, my voice is only so valuable. But I would recommend that you be very cautious and try to make sure you get the right thing out there.
Right, and what I'm hearing after supposedly 20 years of looking into this and trying to figure this out, that other towns and cities have been able to do this. So either a town like Somersworth or a town like Keene that has these ordinances, some so specific that they're made to keep a particular manufacturer or gun range or whatnot from creating noise, somehow they are able to enforce those.
Well, I don't know that they're enforcing it. They may be just lucky that nobody's challenging them. If it goes to court and it gets thrown out,
Well, and
It's- you
and
got
then
nothing.
herein is the issue. I can't even go to court. I can't go to court. I can't bring a civil case and say, based on the town ordinance in Merrimack, after what, and give evidence to a judge, and have that rejected, let's say, based on that, and then bring that to another court and appeal that. I can't even get to that point. And not particularly that I want to. And what I'm saying to the town council here is this is an issue in Merrimack that needs to be dealt with. And what you're saying to me is that over 20 years, you haven't found a way to deal with this. I think it's a reasonable thing to deal with. I think it's a reasonable thing to say in Merrimack that this kind of noise and this kind of nuisance to people's, to how people enjoy their property is a reasonable thing to do. State law says you have the authority to do this.
All right, we're gonna have, Paul's gonna be doing that work, and,
Work with
And-
Nancy.
yeah, and we'll, we'll see how it moves forward. And
Sure.
I appreciate your input, and
All right.
Hey, Finley.
I appreciate your
Oh, I'm
time. I mean,
sorry.
I understand the difficulties and the fact that,
Hold on, Mr. Mackenzie.
Where we've looked
Sorry.
into this in the past, what have we found that the obstacles are as to why we haven't been able to put this into place as of yet?
Well, that's why it will be useful to dig up the previous documentation that was presented to us. And I think, as Tom suggested, that it's the enforcement. When you get into decibels, because we looked at some towns' house decibels, then you're gonna say, who's gonna go around town checking decibels?
right?
Do you want the police station? Do you want DPW? That was a variable. It was not the variable, but it was a variable. And decibels change. And do you do it at a certain time of day and weather and all that stuff has influence, which made it all murky. But I
So
believe the majority of it had to do with enforcement.
when we've looked at other towns in the past and they've had these laws for so long and they've been able to enforce them, have we asked them how?
We don't know if they've been
Have they
able to
enforced
enforce them. And I think that was part of the literature we should be able to dig up and relook at, because that literature is probably, would answer a lot of those questions, where I, off the top of my head, don't remember the specifics, but do remember exactly wanting to work diligently on it and going, no matter how we define it, there's all this murky stuff, and how do we enforce that? And why are we putting something in that we can't enforce? So again, it's worth looking at again, looking at the documents, the literature, perhaps updating the research, and then we can we can look at it again.
Or perhaps
nothing to
even to the
lose.
point of creating zoning ordinances that, require these things of a developer. We have the authority, the town has the authority to
And-
require the developer to follow certain guidelines.
Yep.
Yep.
So,
Very good. Well, we appreciate your time.
all right, thank
Mr.
you very
Jones.
much. I
Thank you
very
so
much
much.
appreciate it.
All right, next item, number 2 under new business, the council will consider a request to withdraw up to $20,000 from the Fire Equipment Capital Reserve Fund for the purchase of multi-gas detection meters, mounted equipment, or any other related equipment or costs associated with the replacement of the meters. Chief,
Good evening, Council. How are you?
very well.
Good, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah. I come before you tonight to express my need for a new multi-gas meters for our department. The life cycle on these things is about 4 to 5 years of age. Our meters are at that point. Historically, from what the staff has advised me, we used to get a little more than 4 or 5 years out of a meter, but now the new meters just don't seem to give us the length that we used to be accustomed to. So we need new meters today. That's why this request is before you. These are the meters that we use when someone has an odor in their home, or there's an odor in a business, or someone has a CO complaint. We can use these meters to detect if there are the presence of, things that the normal person can't see, hear, touch, or feel or smell. So these meters are extremely important for our organization to have. So I'm looking to purchase them today.
This is shifting money, you said?
Yeah, so in looking at the capital plan, the meters weren't due until next year. However, I had hose on my capital plan. I don't need the hose today, I need the meters today. So I'd like to switch that if possible. And in an overall grand scheme of things, it doesn't change the financing plan. It just moves the request of equipment, not the dollars. I think the meters we were looking at like 7 or 8.
How long is the life of the meters?
About 4 years now. Yeah, there were a couple of different kinds of meters that we were looking to purchase. Overall, I think it was in the neighborhood of like 5 or 6 meters total between all the different types of meters that we need.
Yeah, 2, 4, 6.8. Oh, these are adapters.
Some of the stuff that you'll see on that quote that you have, you'll see charging systems, you'll see bottles of gas, which we use to calibrate the meters as we need to monthly. So you can't really just add up the numbers, but I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 15.
I guess
It's
my
like
point,
about 15.
I guess my point was for $40,000, it isn't just one meter. And these aren't the ones that you can just go to like Home Depot
Correct.
and buy off the shelf to say, okay, here's my heat meter, here's my moisture meter, these are highly sophisticated
Specified.
meters that, for the fire department. So it's not just one meter we're buying several meters.
It's 20,000. You need,
Sorry, the next one's 40.
yes.
Hold that thought.
Oh, yeah. So, is
I'd
anybody
like to make a motion,
Please.
unless you, Jennifer, do you want to? I'd like to approve the withdrawal of up to $20,000 from the Fire Equipment Capital Reserve Fund for the purchase of multi-gas detection meters.
Motion by Nancy Harrington,
Second.
seconded by Jennifer.
You don't need signature for anything, right?
Any further discussion?
I don't know if there's any way to put a restriction on it, but this is, you're transferring funds, you don't need the hose this year, you're gonna expect it to get the following year.
Correct.
That the hose is gonna survive that long?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
then that makes sense to do, and I agree with it.
Very good. Any further discussion? Call the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed, abstained, 600. All right,
Thank you.
Chief. Next, council to consider the withdrawal of up to $40,000 from the Emergency Traffic Signal Preemption System Capital Reserve Fund for repairs and replacement of emergency traffic signals.
Thank you. The emergency traffic signal system is the Opticom. That's a brand name, Opticom. But those systems allow emergency vehicles that have the proper equipment installed to change the light green for them, so that we can continue to move through traffic and not be bottlenecked in any particular area due to traffic backup from red lights and other conditions. When I first got here 3 years ago, this was brought to my attention, and I really didn't have the time to dig in on it, but now that I've been here, we've been able to put some time into it, and the condition was just getting worse. So we had the opportunity at one point when one of our firefighters was on light duty, we had him go to every single intersection in town where there was a traffic light and a preemption system. Almost every single one of them has an issue. So we identified that Greeley Street is probably the most important street section for us to take care of first, based on the off-ramps for that highway, all of the other cut-throughs for Continental Boulevard and everything else. It's a very busy roadway. So we had Electric Light Company come out, which is the town's contractor to work with our light systems here in town, and they evaluated all of the lights at that intersection. Come to find out, there's been software upgrades to the lights, which again, the state probably upgraded the light systems, but the Opticoms are on the town. There was another system where the whole power supply for the Opticom system was just gone. So we have to, I can't explain that, but it's gone. So we have to replace some power systems, update some software in those particular cabinets, so that now we can at least test to see what else is wrong with those intersections. So we'd already incurred costs for that to just try to get them to come out. Once we get that established, then we'll work on another street or another set of intersections that we feel is important. Looks like the town historically has put about $5,000 away per year to work on these types of systems. It's been about 9 years since any work has been done to any of the intersections in town. So it's certainly time for us to improve the Opticom systems and get them back in operational order, and then hopefully we can keep going forward with maintenance and whatever else we can do to prevent almost all of our intersections in town from becoming
So
non-workable.
40,000 is for Greeley Street.
No, 40,000 is the total dollars we'd want to remove from the funds so that we can fix Greeley Street. If we have leftover dollars, we're gonna pick another intersection, probably Busick Lake is the next most important one for us. If we have leftover dollars, we'll pick another intersection that we want to work on. And then, once we run out of money, well, then we run out of money. We can't do any more intersections, and we have to wait till the fund develops funding that we can fix another set of intersections.
So we don't,
I don't know
Have
how
you
much it's gonna
close
cost,
idea?
because when I asked the electric light company, how much does it cost? He goes, well, it depends on the system that you have and how many cards are in the box. I said, okay, well, what's a card cost? He goes, well, a card could cost you anywhere from $1,000 to $2,500. I'm like, oh, okay. And he goes, and some systems have 3 cards. Some systems only have 1. So I tried to get a defined cost, but I was not really capable or able to do that. And then their hourly rate changes based upon when they come out to do the work. So I'm like, okay, so there was really no concrete information I could gain to give you a clearer picture of what the true cost is going to be to fix this.
and they're the only guys?
Yeah, well, that's the one the town is contracted to work on the traffic light systems here in
And it's
town.
very difficult because we got to be very cautious, especially on Greeley Street,
Yep.
because those are state boxes, and we want somebody who the state feels comfortable with as well, because the last thing we want to do is own all those lights with all those
Yeah.
lighting boxes. The chief came to me and I said, Chief, let's do the $40,000. We know that Greeley Street's a problem. We know how much it might be estimated, and we know that because, like he said, he went through town with this person who worked during his light duty, that we have issues with every intersection, and the fire department, started mapping out Greeley, Babuzik Lake Road, what's the next busiest intersection we gotta look at, and he has a plan that he's gonna check off to fix these issues until he runs out of the $40,000. We do not believe, we're hoping, but we do not believe that we can fix every intersection that has an issue with our Opticom system with this $40,000. We believe we can get significant issues resolved in the major areas that we have with the traffic lights.
How much money is in that account?
About $44,000.
9 years at $5,000 a year.
Yeah,
Okay. I didn't know if there was some already there.
yeah, about 44,000.
Nancy?
Thanks. Excuse me, thank you. I'm just wondering, in terms of, we haven't spent any money on this in 9 years. What's the plan and who's responsible for checking out, like, routine maintenance of these? Did we not know this for like 9 years?
From my understanding, it was still the fire department's responsibility to do it. However, the DPW director at the time was also working with the fire chief at that time to keep these systems operational. At some point in time, I think the communication broke down and things just didn't move.
So ongoing.
So ongoing, our plan is, and we've already talked to the highway director, that she'd be willing to allow her staff to, once we learn from Electric Light, how to keep these systems maintained.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it might be just to clean the eye, because they're gonna get road dust and salt and all that other stuff from weather. So if we can keep the eyes clean and just send a crew out once or twice a year just to clean the eyes and run a quick check on the system, then that will save us a lot more time and effort than trying to bring in a
Yeah.
vendor to do that work for us. So there are some things that we can do, but we will learn from Electric Light Company what we can do to maintain the systems that we have.
Yeah, that old routine maintenance can save a lot of, you know,
Absolutely.
it's just unfortunate that it's been all that time with, you know, that we're gonna play catch up. Thank you, though, it's good to know, thank you.
So it's a pleasure of the council.
I'll make a motion.
Jennifer?
It's Tom.
So I was going to ask if I could, real quick, there's 2 different funds talked about here. One's an emergency traffic signal preemption capital reserve fund, and the other is a fire equipment capital reserve fund. Are those the same thing or 2 different things, or do they both exist?
The technical term for these Opticom systems, the capital reserve title is Preemption System Capital Reserve Fund. That is where this $40,000 is. That is for the Opticom system. The
Okay.
fire equipment capital reserve is for fire trucks and fire.
That's
equipment.
where I was going, is, are we
different.
depleting the fire equipment capital reserve fund for the Opticon system?
No,
No.
we're just
It's
looking at the
strictly coming-
Opticom, straight from Opticom.
Okay.
Okay.
So will you
Jennifer?
I'll make a
wanna
motion.
make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the withdrawal of up to $40,000 from the Emergency Traffic Signal Preemption System Capital Reserve Fund for repairs and replacements of emergency traffic signals.
And I'll make a second.
Motion by Jennifer, seconded by Mackenzie. Any further discussion on your motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstained? 6-0.
Thank you, Council. And Mr. Koenig, I just want to thank you for your time on the council, my 3 years here. I won't be here. If you're here for the 19th, I'll be away. So I just wanted to thank you for your time and your courtesy as me being the fire chief here in town. It's been a pleasure.
It's been great having you here and working with you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Now the exciting part. Council will have a discussion regarding the details of the 2025 through 2031 CIP.
Can we take a 5-minute recess, please?
Yes.
5-minute
Recess
recess.
for 5 minutes. All right,
That's the kind of information we've already looked at.
we're going to come
Not
out,
looking at again.
we're coming out of recess right now. Sorry about
Okay.
that.
Oh,
So,
look, Paul's changed.
same haircut.
He likes that. Same haircut. Oh, my God.
So I come before you to talk about the capital improvement plan.
Get serious.
Want to give you, for the new members of the council, and the reason for a capital improvement plan, the objective is, along with Charter Article 8-9, the planning board was directed in 1984 at town meeting to prepare and maintain a 6-year capital improvement plan called the CIP to aid with capital needs of the annual budget. Related to the preparation of this capital CIP, RSA 674:7 requires municipal departments, school boards, libraries, and water districts to submit statements of proposed capital expenditures to the planning board for the CIP. Our charter actually states that the CIP goes from myself to the planning board. Once the planning board puts their recommendations on it, desirable, needed, that gets sent to the town council for final approval. In years past, council always liked to see the CIP first to make sure they're on board what the town manager was sending forward. I remember at one time, the town manager was sending forward sidewalks, and at the time, the town council didn't want to see sidewalks without a sidewalk plan, so They removed all sidewalks from the capital improvement plan. So that's why we are now going this way. So this is an overview of what we'll be presenting to the planning board next two Tuesdays from now. The major projects are depicted into two sections. What we do is anything over 100,000 was supposed to go to the planning board. However, as you know, a fire truck cost me $895,000, which is over $100,000. The planning board isn't really interested in seeing $895,000 fire truck. They're more interested in seeing infrastructure such as sidewalks, sewer, buildings, things of that sort that are for infrastructure, and that's what we bring forward for the planning board to see, and that depicts major projects. Is anything that generally will bring forward to the planning board. Like I said, the planning board is not interested in purchase of equipment. Minor projects are anything over $10,000, up to $1.7 million for a new heavy-duty rescue vehicle. So things of that sort. So going forward, we have to fund the capital reserve funds. This year, we put about $2,790,000 into our current budget was our funding. Projected to be at $3,140,000. There's been some increases because of the cost of doing business and the cost of infrastructure, if you look at 25, 26. General fund's about $2,540,000, which is what affects the tax rate is $2,540,000, which is about $300,000 more than the previous year. When I came before you in October to talk about tax rate stuff, that's what we were projecting. Looking at the budget itself, when I'm preparing it, I do not believe we'll be at the $300,000 for general fund. We might be a little bit less. This is the differences that when we put the capital reserve fund plan or the CIP in place. Ambulances were decreasing about $25,000. Athletic fields, trying to build up that capital reserve fund. Computer equipment, decreasing that a little bit. Daniel Webster Highway, that's the paving for DW. We're looking at doing the next section, which is basically from the post office out towards Walgreens in that area in future years. I have to increase that because the cost of paving has gone up. Fire equipment, we bought 2 pumper trucks for $695,000. The chief came before the council a couple of months ago and requested $895,000 for a pumper truck. So in a matter of 3 or 4 years, they went up $200,000. We need to increase it because the fire equipment is costing us more money. Playground equipment, our playgrounds are getting a little bit older down at Wasserman Park and at Vets Park. Those playgrounds are getting a little bit older. We got to start doing some repairs and replacements. Property evaluation, I know everybody loves to hear that, but that's due in 25, 26, and that's going to be about $125,000 to reval all the property in town. And we have to increase that to come up with that money. Solid waste disposal, a loader is costing us $250,000 to buy a loader nowadays, where before we were budgeting about $175,000. So the price of equipment has skyrocketed since COVID. So we have to increase that capital reserve. And then, of course, road infrastructure. Don was in front of you to talk to you about the increased pricing of just this bridge over by the MYA. Yeah, we've combined 3 projects into one, but that is also increasing the cost of things. Just the bridge alone project, I believe, was on the books for $6 million. The sidewalks and the intersection at Wire Road might have been about $1 million each. So that total project started out at $8 million. Now we're up to $12 million. And that's an 80-20 split for most of that with the state. But, that $4 million, we still got to come up with 20% of that $4 million. So we need to increase the road infrastructure capital reserve to cover, and that's not just for that one project. All our drainage, all our MS4 work, everything comes out of this culvert work, that all comes out of this road infrastructure capital reserve fund. And we need to keep on doing that work to satisfy some of our permits as well. So the $300,000 and then sewer infrastructure improvements.
How did these differences get calculated? For example, the Daniel Webster Highway, 75,000 goes up 25,000, that's 30%, yet it says 50% for the difference. And then the playground equipment from 5 goes up 20,000, and it says it's only 100%, but it's more like 400%.
It's the calculated, its formula was off.
Huh?
The formula was off, that's all I can say.
Oh.
The formula's been off. I don't know why that happened, but I guess the formula was off.
So these
Okay.
are incorrect.
The difference,
So
the
those numbers
percentages
don't
are
mean anything.
incorrect.
Is what-
The dollar
Percentage.
increases are correct. Sorry about that, I
Whoa.
don't.
We all have nystagmus right now.
So I just wanted to show you this real quick because I want to show the townspeople. We have 29 projects that we're considering underneath our major general fund projects.
You don't see this,
You don't
but
see
our
it? I
screens are
can't
going
read
like
this.
this.
How about that?
It's still
It's still
shaking.
doing it.
Still shaking. Some of them worse than others.
Yeah, I feel like, oh. This one wasn't shaking back here?
Yeah, that one's fine.
It's still shaking.
Yeah, anyway, the numbers are solid, it's just the lines that are shaking.
So now that's not coming in.
Go ahead. We can,
Yeah, go ahead, yeah,
we'll listen
No,
to
it's
you.
not on. Grace,
Oh.
is it on TV?
she's coming.
Did you see it back there?
It was coming back there fine for TV.
Oh, it was. It wasn't shaking?
Wasn't flashing?
I'll see if it's on.
Well, We've
No,
got the
no,
hard
we don't have
copies.
them, but we,
We've got hard copies, so go
no,
ahead.
we don't have hard copies of his presentation,
Oh,
but.
no, but we've got the data.
So I just brought this up because there are 29 projects that, major projects that we're looking to
I guess we
work
do have
with.
hard copies of this.
What I did then is I broke down the major projects into current year, future year, and 1 year out. So, for instance, the fire, police, safety complex, projecting probably to go to bond in 26, 27.
Yeah, the first page. Yeah.
And then fire station, South Fire Station, about $2.6 million would be 26, 27. So we'd be doing both the safety complex and renovations to the South Fire Station. Then we have the fire police 800 megahertz tower construction. We got the bond for it. Not the bond, we got the grant for it. However, the grant does not allow construction of the tower. It only allows us to buy the equipment for the tower. Construction is about $480,000. Just so happens that we got the housing grant from the state of New Hampshire for Twin Bridge in that, around that amount, $480,000 as well. So the town will be, I'll be presenting that to use that money. And then we have other projects, and I'll go through them real quick. A lot of these projects on here are been here. There's nothing really that we brought forward in the last, in 25, 26, 26, 27 that the town council hasn't seen except for the crosswalk at DW Highway and Shaw's. That's a new project. So if I can just go through some of these slides, I don't want to bore the council with all these slides. These slides will be up on the financial website in the next coming days. But I do want to take some time to talk about the safety complex. Station 1 was built in 1960, which was an original 3-bay station. The station was expanded in 1996 for an additional 3 bays for a total of 6 bays. So it's almost 30 years old. And we have outgrown that station over at Station 1, which is over by Buckley's. The police station was 2 individual buildings. that have a common entryway built when the police department relocated in 1994. The first was constructed in 1960. The second building was constructed in 1975. We did some renovations in 1994. This is a 30-year-old building. We're outgrowing the space as well because the town has grown significantly from 94 to 2024. This is a conceptual plan that we looked at with the police department in one area, common space, and then the fire department in the back area. So that's the concept we're looking at, is separating police and fire and having common area and doing economy of scales for heating and the common area. South Fire Station was originally constructed in 1973. It was expanded in 1987 to include living quarters for 3 personnel. About maybe 10 years ago, we did a renovation to adjust the living quarters and make them independent living quarters. But however, it's still almost 40 years old. That station has gone untouched. So we've done some minor repairs to it, like a new kitchen. And like I said, about 15 years ago, we redid the bedrooms to make them 3 individual bedrooms instead of 1 captain's bedroom and then 1 lieutenant's bedroom, and then shared bunk space in the back. This facility has 1 bathroom for 3 members. The 800 megahertz system we talked about. We received a grant for $1.4 million from the federal government. We were informed that the grant does not cover construction cost. The estimated construction cost we got was around $480,000. So we want to move forward with the 800 megahertz system hopefully next year. If we get all the approvals, we'd have to do construction.
Yeah, we hope.
We hope. And, it's been a year. It's almost been a year since I signed the documents, the agreement with Verizon. So I'm hoping this is the year. So hopefully we can get that done. Dawn has given everybody a presentation about the US 3 bridge replacement. I don't think I really need to go into much detail with this. It's going to include sidewalks now. It's going to include a traffic light at Wire Road and the MYA. And there's some other minor repairs, such as Church Street is included. Stormwater drainage improvements, we've gone through. We've looked at CWSRF grants through the Babuzik Lake area or Pine Hill Shores. We've done other things like Belmont Country Club, Clay Street, and Sounding subdivisions. We are ticking off the low-hanging fruit on the stormwater drainage improvements. Now we're getting into some of the more costly drainage improvements that we would have to do. Retrofit for drainage for the MS4 permit compliance. This is something that Leo came in front of the council and started talking about a couple of months ago about existing infrastructure and how we have to look at installing to meet the MS4 requirements for drainage. Rain gardens, this is an example of best management practice. And then we have our facilities where we have the district court, Watson Park, the highway garage. We have to start installing some best management practices on our own property for runoffs and drainage and things of that sort as well, so we need to look at that. This is the new project that I talked about, DW Crosswalk at Shaw's. 2022, the proposal was brought before the Town Highway Safety Committee regarding the safety of pedestrians crossing Daniel Webster Highway in the location of the Shaw's store north. At that time, the committee voted unanimous that the project was a safety issue and the plan was formulated. We're bringing this forward as part of the, in the next 4 years to get this accomplished. And we'd have to do a traffic light signal upgrade as well over there. Talking about opticoms and traffic signals and boxes. Woodland Park, about 3 years ago now, the residents of Woodland Park came forward and tried to put together a bond for about $3.9 million to do drainage improvements in the area. For those that are not familiar, this is a very flat area, very sandy area, not a lot of drainage. in 2022-23, we conducted the first phase of this, and we took 2 of the years and combined them to do the first phase of the drainage. This is the second phase of drainage, where we're going to be looking at Heartwood, Forest, Pine Tree, Birchwood Drive, and Deerwood Drive. And we have $375,000 set aside in the Capital Reserve Fund to do each year for that. So we're going to combine the 2 of them for $750,000 and try to get as much done as possible moving forward in that area. Paving, this is the $1.5 million that the council gives to pave infrastructure roads and every, this is for every road except Daniel Webster Highway. Daniel Webster Highway has its own capital reserve fund. This is for paving. Last year, we did Back River Road. We did the injection system to stabilize it. We've also done Camp Sargent Road, Lawrence Road, Edward, Sundale, Country Club, Mallard Point, Phase 2, Bow Street, Kittredge, Belmont, Roundtree, and then we did a bunch of crack sealing to help preserve. I went to a conference and I sat in on preservation of pavement. Don's been to this conference as well through the UNH,
T-square.
T-squared. And Dawn will be bringing forward a plan, and that's what she really bases the crack sealing on and things of that sort. There are a bunch of different levels of payment, and she's putting together a presentation. I want to steal all the thunder, but it's about 12 years. You don't maintain a road within 12 years after it's first paved, might as well, it's going to go downhill. You're throwing good money into bed to maintain that road after 12 years. And then after 20 to 30 years, you're going to have to repave it every year. So if you can do some of these steps earlier in its life cycle of a new road, now that's easier said than done. Merrimack has 184 miles of center lane miles. What's a center lane mile? It's yellow lines. So we measure yellow line miles. So that's a lot of paving to be done when really we're only doing about 3 to 4 miles of roads a year in paving. So just think of the cycle. Divide 180 by 4 miles or 5 miles. Or even 6, it's a 30-year cycle. So there's going to be some stuff, but Dawn's working on a presentation for the budget to show how that will affect. We have some gravel roads in town. We have approximately 16 gravel roads in Merrimack. Some of them are up in the Babuzik Lake area that will be taken care of when we look at Pine Knoll Shores. However, we have other ones like Fulham Mill Road, Leicester Road, Green Ponds Road. Chestnut Hill improved the Old Blood, unpaved section of Old Blood Road that was there. However, it takes a lot of man hours to go out there year after year after year and grade it in the wintertime and grade it in the springtime and fix the ruts and things of that sort. Not to mention, we have a 1997 grader that is scheduled for replacement at a cost of $300,000. That is only used for these 300 to 400 man hours to grade these roads. We used to use it to plow. We stopped using that when we bought the 10-wheeler several years ago. So it's something that we need to look at, is starting to look at paving some of these gravel roads. The maintenance on it will pay for itself, and not having to buy a grader would also help out as well. It will save some money on the back end. Looking at cost-benefit analysis when it comes to paving gravel roads. Another thing we have a lot of sidewalks now in the town of Merrimack. For instance, most of the new subdivisions have sidewalks that have been put in. Some of these sidewalks are, when we pave the road, we don't repave the sidewalk. So some of these sidewalks are failing. So we have to start Dawn's putting in a plan to looking at repairing sidewalks, curbing, paving infrastructure, and improvements for sidewalks so that they last a little bit longer. And actually, when we pave a road with a sidewalk, maybe we're going to have to also look at repairing the sidewalks at times when we look at that. So that's something new. That's a new plan that she's putting in place. Severance Bridge slope stabilization. Say that 10 times fast. This has been brought before the council a couple of times. That's that section of road as you come down off of Amherst Road and take a left onto Severance Bridge Road. that slope has been washing out because of runoff and things. We've been out there a couple times to stabilize that slope. At one point, I thought we put up Jersey barriers to help in that area, but that's something that we need to look at in stabilizing that slope before it all washes into the river. Daniel Webster Highway sidewalk, Chamberlain Bridge to 360. This is a TAP grant that we received. And we're looking to connect the parts of the sidewalk in this area from basically Rite Aid, the old Rite Aid Plaza, all the way up to 360. Church Street, Hammerhead, Don's been in front of you to talk about that several times when we talked about the other project. Wastewater infrastructure, there's a couple projects on here that we're looking at over the next 4 years well, actually now it's to 2027. The big one is the relocation of the sewer connector that we talked about last time, that we came in front of the council last meeting, and that's next year. And then screw press gearbox replacements that Leo's talked about to the council already as well. And then there's some Pennachuck pump station. You heard about it that tonight, the $100,000. And then it's going to be, we're estimating $1.4 million to repair that pump station. It's that's a significant pump station. So, and then looking at a nutrient removal, we got a EPA sent us the new regulations that we have to follow. I requested an extension today with the EPA. They wanted comments by January. We asked for a 60-day extension to go through March for our comment period. We went from about 1 page of requirements to 4 pages of requirements. So we have to hire some consultants in our legal counsel to look at what the EPA now is trying to look at and what we are being regulated for. One of the bigger things, without getting into a lot of detail, is copper. And the only way we really can regulate copper, from what I understand, Leo, correct me if I'm wrong, is at the source. So that means we'd have to go to businesses and see what kind of copper they're putting into the waste stream and regulate it at the source. Because removing copper is, I guess, very difficult from the waste stream. So, you know, things of that we're trying to look at with the EPA and fight with the EPA, not fight, but discuss with the EPA. Let me say that. We're discussing with the EPA that some of these requirements may be onerous and very costly to communities. So, but, you know, and that's going to drive some of our projects that we do as well. And we talked about the sewer, the hypo feed system is just, and then the Pennachuck pump station, screw press, nutrient retriever, recycling, nitrate recycling, not nutrient, not nitrate. There's a bunch of other projects. What I really want to touch about is a couple of projects on this page. And the first one is a placeholder for the Northwest Fire Station, about $7 million. That was identified in that sewer fire, not the sewer, sorry, the fire station study that we did. They suggested we have 3 stations. We're looking at the safety complex, we're looking at South Fire Station, upgrading those. They said a 3rd station would be in the Chestnut Hill Middle School area, would be someplace where we'd put a 3rd fire station. The homes in that section of town were mostly built in the late 70s, early 80s, so it's an older part of town. So, but that's a placeholder. Out in 3031. Amherst Road Bridge, application was submitted to the 10-year plan. We just heard the other day that we did not get that in the 10-year plan. So we have that in 2030-31, and that's going to be coming out of our money, and that's really to replace the membrane. Once again, we need to look at some of this infrastructure before we have to do a complete bridge rebuild or a complete road rebuild. We're trying to do maintenance on it. And one of the things is that underneath the asphalt level on the bridge, there's a membrane. And when that membrane starts failing, the salt and sand and the water gets on the steel and starts rotting the steel. So looking at doing some maintenances such as replacing the joints and the membrane.
The membrane that is used now, is it different than that membrane? Because the bridge we did at Turkey Hill supposedly will last 75 to 100 years. Does that membrane fail and it has to be redone periodically?
We don't have that answer, but we'll get that for you. That's one of the older ones. We had to do the joint over
Right, that's when
there.
I found it.
And that's when they found that the membrane was
Right.
in the process of deteriorating. So that's why we're looking at that. But yeah, we'll look into that. We'll get you that
I'm
answer.
just curious.
I don't know. And then the pedestrian bridge, we're trying to go, I believe that is in the 10-year plan, but it's in 10-year plan for fiscal year 2032. However, we may be coming forward to the town council, and the pedestrian bridge is the one that goes under the Effie Everett Turnpike to connect 80 acres with Wildcat Falls, with West Chamberlain in that area, and bring it under the highway to the high school to continue down through and into Watson Park. There's been some very creative individuals over there since we shut it down. They've put pallets and built like a little bridge so they can climb up and over and get over the fence and get onto the bridge, or try to climb over the top of the trestles over. So we might be coming forward to the town council in the next year or so, once we get a plan together, to either remove the bridge forward totally, or do some kind of more permanent barriers that people can't get to it.
It's got to be removed. They'll
It's
figure it out.
Yeah, yeah. But, so we have to look into those things and come up with a plan. We don't have a plan today to bring forward to the council, but that's something that's going forward. But that is in the 10-year plan. If the town wants to do that project, it's almost a $1.3 million project. And if you do it before the 10-year plan, it's in the 10-year plan, it's all on the town, versus an 80-20 split. So those are things we have to look at when we're looking at some of this stuff. And then the last one is the Babuzik Lake sidewalk. What I've been told is that the project for the two bridges, Babuzik Lake and Wire Road, have been delayed with the state. However, when they do the Babuzik Lake Road Bridge, there's going to be sidewalks on both sides of the bridge. Part of the deal, when we signed the deal to get the sidewalk on both sides of the bridge, right now there's a sidewalk on the southerly side of the bridge. To get one on the northerly side of the bridge, which is the American Legion and Police Department side of the road, they're not just gonna, the state said we're not building a sidewalk to nowhere. So we signed a letter of intent to complete that sidewalk from wherever they end, which would be right around Hillside, down to the corner of the library. So that's where that comes into play. And we're looking at a placeholder back in 2030, 31. That did not get in the 10-year plan, I don't believe either. But that's, about a $1.5 million project to do that sidewalk for that distance. And then looking at the athletic fields, I know last year we MYA put together a warrant article. I just want to show you that the plan is 27-28. We're saving money up for athletic field in the capital reserve. We'll have about $190,000 in the capital reserve. We'll have to either look at bonding the $810,000 or making that part of the tax rate in 27-28. Or if things go well, we could look at using maybe some fund balance to offset that amount. But those are all decisions that are going to be happening in the future. But I did want to say that the council I do have a plan for the council to build the athletic field, and that's in the 27-28 timeframe. And then there are some more projects. Pearson Road Pump Station, that's the one that is mostly Bedford, New Hampshire contributes the most part of that.
Didn't we do work recently on that?
We've done some work. This will be to upgrade some other items on it. We did some minor repairs to it.
Oh, I thought it was a big rebuild.
And Bedford did pay for most of that, and they'll pay, if we have to do other repairs in there, Bedford will pay their fair share of that.
Right.
Because that's for that Greenfield Farms
Right.
development. And then, of course, we have the Herring Cove Pump Station. And then what I want to bring to your attention, I know we just got done a $32 million upgrade. But looking at placeholders in 29, 30, 30, 20, 20, 30, 31, looking at about another $20 million upgrade. When I first got here in 2005 was first phase of the upgrades that they did for $5 million. So this will take in account that first phase upgrade, replacing some of that equipment, but also doing everything that was not completed with this phase 3, 4, and 5 upgrade as well. So it's just a placeholder right now, and we're estimating about $20 million, but I did want to bring it to the town council's attention that there are some more modifications. When you start talking about, these plants were built in the 70s, and they were all built with federal money, and when you got to repair them 50 years later, and the federal money is not helping you,
It just seems like we put so many
millions of dollars into
millions.
it.
I mean, now it's 10 million, like 30 million.
Yeah, we put $32 million into it. We put some other money, prior to that. We put $5 million of cash into it. Back in 2005, we've done other upgrades. We've put about $40 million of upgrades into this facility. I believe Portsmouth, correct me if I'm wrong, Leo, but Portsmouth just did an upgrade and was over $75 million.
Literally built a whole new plant.
Had to build a whole new plant for $75 million. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the funding back in the 70s was 95%.
Yeah, right. So
Town paid 5%.
Federal, yeah.
the federal money really, they help build these plants, but when they have to rebuild them because all the equipment gets old, they're not there. They're like, okay,
On
we
you.
moved on to
Yep.
another hot issue. Community, it's on you now. So, but I did want to bring that to the town council as well, is that is a major project that will be happening. And like I said, those are just estimates right now, with construction increases and things of that sort, but,
Has it been is this too far out to have been calculated in our fee structure? I don't remember when that came to an end, as I'm saying it out
we have
loud.
not, I think that's right on the outside of our fee
Outside, yeah.
structure.
I thought it might be.
And then these are some of the upgrades that will be in the agitators, the compost blowers we're doing. So this is our funding, and this is how it plays out over the next several years. We're using about $2.4 million estimated in capital reserve funds for major projects. Remember, we're only putting $3 million in, so we're putting $3 million into capital reserves, and we're taking out 2.4 just in major projects. And then there's funding through the budget, and that's mostly because of, in 26, 27, that's the way we're looking at funding the properties, because if we do build a new safety complex, some of the properties are not going to be, going to be accessed, and selling those, and then the money comes in and we use it as part of the budget process. So then we have the minor projects, and I did the same for the minor projects. We talked about the 26, 27, $125,000 for evaluation. If the safety complex doesn't move forward, we're gonna have to do something with the PD HVAC system over there. And then we do have some upgrades with some of the communication equipment. Community development, GIS, once again, I believe the last time we did the flyover was in the late 2000 teens, 18, 19 area, so it's almost time to do another flyover, or maybe even before that. So it's another time. We have Reed's Ferry Station 3 out in the northwest corner, northeast corner of town, I guess you would say. We'd have to do some repairs out there for that building. Ambulance, we're looking to replace an ambulance, and this is where costs have just gone skyrocketing. And they're only building 50 ambulances a year, it's $466,000. So is it a year or Chief, or a month?
they build about 200 to 300 a year.
200 to 300 a year, about, 25 to 50 a month on a good month, but $466,000 to outfit an ambulance. So.
obscene.
It's just,
Is there, I know wear and tear beats the living daylights out of that type of equipment, but is there anything we can really start digging into to find, process improvements or whatever to make it?
those ambulances are running constantly. Today, at 1 o'clock today, we had a situation where we had a Charlie level call. They were on a Charlie level call. They were
Which
in,
is-
a Charlie level call is, it goes
Middle of the
alpha.
road,
Yeah,
ACDE.
is middle of the road, but it's still, a 75-year-old, I believe it was a 75-year-old male having difficulty breathing, and that's considered Charlie. If he was having a heart attack, it might have been a Delta level call, which is more go
Urgent.
quicker. Echo level calls are get there as fast as you can.
Okay.
Break every, thing you can get there. So we had that going on with a 75-year-old male, I believe. We also had a search and rescue of an individual at Horse Hill Nature Preserve who fell and broke their ankle at the time. And we had an ambulance out of town already who had a transport. And there was one other call, so we were calling in mutual aid. So our ambulances are running almost constantly. And, they have between 100 to 120,000 miles before we start. And we don't have a down cycle with our ambulance. We're trying to get that, the chief is. Where you have an ambulance at 100,000 miles and you might make that a reserve piece of equipment so it lasts a little bit longer. We're trying to get there right now. We have 3 ambulances and we run 3 ambulances and they've all been bought around the same time period. So he's trying his best to keep the mileages as equal as possible on some of these pieces of equipment. However, when they hit 100 to 100, they start breaking down a little bit or they're in the shop a little bit more. So that's why we're trying to do a replacement schedule and keeping one in reserve. So when they do break down or they start, we can rotate them to keep the miles more down. Yeah, that's a great word. Less miles and get longer life out of them.
I see portable radios. Didn't we just get a bunch of new portable radios?
We
'Cause
did.
It's 26, 27 though.
Yeah, we did get a bunch of new portable radios, but that's replacement schedule on them.
When did we get them?
Chief?
The first round of portables you got was probably almost 7 years ago.
So 7 years ago for the portable radios.
So they'll be coming up on 10 or 12 years of age when that comes up to time.
What did we get like 2 or 3 years ago?
We got some other radios, not the fire department, we got those for the police department. That was part of the upgrade of the 800 megahertz system.
That was for the police, not for
Yeah,
the fire.
Yeah.
But I thought we got.
We got
something-
a grant, but it was about 7 or 8 years ago to replace all the fire radios, and they got dual band at that time. When we bought those radios through that grant of
But
$375,000.
wasn't there a recent upgrade or something with the fire? Because that was part of the communication solution.
It was to go to the 800, so they just got programmed. The radios got programmed, reprogrammed, because they were dual band radios when we bought them. So they got reprogrammed to be 800
I'm thinking,
megahertz.
do you know what I'm talking
The time seems to fly by, so
Maybe.
I'm probably back 7 years ago in my head.
about? Maybe.
It seems like
within
yesterday.
the last couple of years.
We can look at it,
We've
it's
had
out
some
26, 27,
discussions,
so we
And
can
it
look
was
at
in
them.
relationship to the communication problem that had been.
Yeah, but like Paul said, I think that was programming, new
Just the
chips to go in them or
programming.
something like
And the other
that.
thing we bought were boosters, for lack of a better word, to put into the trucks
Maybe that's
to
what we're
help
talking
with
about.
communications
Yeah.
as well.
Maybe that's what we're talking about, okay.
Yeah, so, but,
Yeah, 'cause
so that's out there. The breathing apparatus, we got to start looking at that too, because that's coming to end of life
Yeah, I
as
remember
well.
that.
And then, what's big on this one is, the Phase 4 of Wasserman Park Beach. November of 2025, we lose our permitting with the state for that beach.
So it's going to be done.
So it's got to be done by November 2025, and we're estimating $100,000 for that Phase 4. We'll have a presentation in front of the council And then, some other small things, looking at a fiber optic project to connect the highway garage to town hall through fiber. And then a lot of just information for capital reserve for wastewater, from lawnmowers to, lifts, so scissor lifts and things of that sort. The computer system, their SCADA computer system, which is their computer brain that talks to all their outbound to pump stations to see if there's problems and stuff needs to be upgraded in 26, 27. So there's just a bunch of things. We're changing out the blowers, the compost blowers. The blowers were way beyond their useful life, and we've done that project slowly but surely over a number of years. And then Nick is looking at some stuff here in the cable, local head-end equipment needs to be upgraded, some software upgrades, connectivity infrastructure, things of that sort. We're looking to spend roughly another $1.5 million next year, 25, 26, out of capital reserve funds. So it's a significant amount of money that the town has saved, and we're gracious that they do allow us to save and put money into these capital reserves so that we can do these projects and we can buy this equipment. So we're lucky, we're fortunate in that way, because if we didn't have these capital reserves, we'd be bonding $5 to $10 million a year just to buy equipment and infrastructure needs year after year after year.
That's what we have to keep on reminding ourselves about.
Right, and
We pay it gradually, or we pay it all at once
Right.
and pay interest?
we're paying $3 million. Like I said, we put $3 million into the capital reserve funds, estimated this year, next year, 25, 26, and we're taking almost 3.9 millions out. So we've been saving up for these projects, but some of the costs that we were saving towards has gone through the roof. Like I said, not to belabor the issue, but when a fire truck cost us $695 5 years ago, and now the same truck is $895,000. We bought the ladder truck for $1.5 million. We waited 2.5 years
To get it.
to get it. When it arrived on site that day, we could have turned around and sold it for $2.2 million. And we paid 1.5. So just in those 2.5 years, it went from 1.5 to 2.2. The prices are going up. Police cruisers are going up. I really sound old now. But, when I started here, we were budgeting $85,000 for a 6-wheel dump truck.
Right.
Now we're up over $200,000, $265,000 for a 6-wheel dump truck. And that $85,000 was all in, sander, plows, the whole 9 yards. Now it's $265,000. Granted, been here 20 years, but it's still, the prices are just going astronomical.
So have the taxes.
And so have,
As a result.
as a result to it, and it's,
Yep.
we're trying to do, for the taxpayers, we're trying to do the best we can to keep the cost down, but we need this equipment and this infrastructure to keep the town moving forward in a positive direction, where we don't get into a situation like Bedford had to do and bond $30 million for roads.
And when the bond was paid off, the roads had to be
Be
redone.
done, right, so we're looking at other avenues. I have other communities that call me and want to know how do we start the capital reserve process? Dover, for instance, every year they bond $20 million. So,
On top of previous.
on top of the, 20 million, and they might retire some debt and rebond it, in that revenue, but they bond a lot. And granted, yes, bonding the last couple of years, it was cheap. We have seen the bond rates start increasing. They're still pretty good. They're low 3, low 4 for borrowing, but 3 years ago, they were in the onesie twosies percentile. So, you know, we try to do the best we can without trying to overburden the taxpayers. Because, you know, we'd love to take everything we have on the major projects and just say, we're gonna do it next year. I know Don would be looking at me and saying, we can't do that. But, you know, it'd be great just to get it done, but we have to budget for it. And, you know, I know the people in the Woodland Drive area are like, well, this project's taking, you know, several years to do, but we're doing it through saving our capital reserve money to do it, instead of paying the extra money to bond issues and things of that sort. Well, we're trying to do what's best for the taxpayers and keep the tax rate down as low as possible when it comes to our infrastructure.
Paul, back 4 or 5 years ago, had money aside for Depot Street, Canoe Port, whatever they
Yep.
call it.
Boat ramp, yeah.
I didn't notice it in any of this, and the project wasn't done for whatever reason.
We're looking into that project, to be honest with you. There have been some funding challenges with the state on that project. We were hoping to get some help from the State Fish and Game, and that fell through. So we're looking at how to fix that as best possible.
Can we find a place to plug it in a CIP?
We will find a place. We might bring it forward. That it might not be in the CIP, but we might bring it forward. Have Don look into it some more and bring it forward maybe in the springtime for a summertime project over there.
All right. Very good.
It's a very difficult area
No,
to get
I
to.
know, the railroad bed and everything.
You know, and with it being underneath the railroad bed, it's not as simple as, okay, let's bring in a couple of cement trucks to pour the ramp. Now you gotta bring in a pumper truck, and you gotta go underneath, and or do you go above? And if you go above, then you gotta talk to the railroad. So it's a intricate project that let Don have some time and Leo have some time to look into, and let's see what we can do.
Great. Anybody have any questions, comments, thoughts? Well, we'll be doing this again.
Well, you get my budget in 2 weeks.
I know, it's so exciting.
I know, it is very exciting.
All righty. Thank you much, Paul. All right, we have 2 sets of minutes, November 21st and November 23rd. Nothing?
I have a couple
I
of
figured you
things.
might. There we-
On page 3, line 4, it says town council. I think that should be state reps, and I'll check with
I have a number
Nancy on
one
that.
on that page.
Okay.
In that section.
Do you want to go ahead with yours?
Yeah, you know what, thank you. You know what, could I back up in that, let's go back to page 2. And I'm just confused by a sentence, line 35, 36. Actually, it's line 36. In file before tomorrow's bill filing deadline, in which Mr. McKelly stated that this originally comes from a DOT policy that states it's not written in the law anywhere about the 1,500 square foot benefited household that works towards the cost. What does that mean?
There's a calculation that they do. I don't know how it should be.
Yeah, there's a calculation that they do for, and that's a calculation, 1,500 square feet per benefited household.
Per benefited household.
Yeah, per benefited household.
Okay, that's what it is.
The per is missing.
Gotcha, thank you. Okay, and then turn the page on page 3 on the top. Let me take my clip off. On line 3, she discussed having the senator from Bedford rather than representative. Senator Ricciardi. Yep, instead of rep. And then on line 4, capitalized senator. Line 5, capitalized Senate. Line 6, line 6, capitalized Senate, last word in the sentence. Line 7, capitalized Senate. And then it says, Mr. Kennedy. There was a phrase here, wait a minute, because I actually wrote an alternative, something I said, going through. Sorry, wait a minute. Okay, yeah, back to line 3, she discussed, and I think that's me, having the representative, whatever, senator from Bedford, Senator Ricciardi, work on this along with our new senator, and the town council might not be the best people for this particular task. I think what I said was, not that the town council, it said, along with the new senator, and that given the makeup of the House, our reps might be the best people to determine who should file, rather than the town council.
So you want to give that to Paul?
Yeah,
Please and thank you.
okay, sure. And those were my changes. Actually, I think I had one more, but
I have
Go ahead,
just
Jen.
one more minor spelling. Page 4, line 3, it says reroute, R-O-O-T. I think it's supposed to be reroute, R-O-U-T-E.
Yep.
Yeah.
And on page 6, line 5, I think it's supposed to be implementation, bringing an implementation plan forward.
Implantation.
Yeah, it's just, we do an IVF here, you know?
That's pretty good.
Good catch.
And that's all I had.
Anything else? I move we approve the minutes of town council for November 21st, with corrections.
Motion by Nancy
Second.
Harrington, seconded by Jennifer. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose or abstain? 600. Now November 23rd. Our sidewalk minutes.
Page 3.
That's pretty short. This was during the site visit. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the November 23rd town council site walk minutes.
Second.
Motion by Nancy Harrington, seconded by Tom. No discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstained, 600. Comes from the press, seeing nobody here, nor from the public. Comments from the council. Then, I'm waiting.
Motion to adjourn.
By Nancy Harrington, seconded by
Second.
Jennifer. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstained, 600. Thank you very much.